Hi everybody, it's Katie. Welcome to the next episode of Season 10. Today is episode 1 of this little mermaid journey, and I'm really excited to show you guys the plans that I have for the island. The first thing we're going to look at is the only thing that I have finished designing, and that is the flag. I really wanted a flag that looked like it could be the king's crest for Eric, as he is prince over this land, at least the above ground area. My plan is to divide the island up into 4 general designs. The first one, of course, is going to be the town area. So down here, I'm going to have a big, wide, beautiful castle. That's one of the themes. And then over towards kind of the middle here with the shopping and some of the other houses, it's going to be a little bit more of the peasantry fields. It's still going to be part of town, but it'll be a little bit more quaint. Everything outside of town is going to be underwater. So this bridge is exactly where everything changes. I'm planning to put everything over here as underwater. Everything on the other side of the bridge is above water, and I hope that makes sense, because clearly I can't do much about trying to make everything underwater actually go down. To prepare for this, I have covered the entire side over here, which is a majority of the island, in sand, and I decided that's probably the best way to indicate that the area is underwater. Obviously there'll be a lot of decorations and other things on top of it. This area over here all by itself is going to be 2 different areas. Near my house here is going to be the underwater world of Atlantica, where King Triton lives. Over here in the other corner of the island is going to be a little bit of the deep, dark depths of the underwater area where Ursula is, and a little bit of a deeper water and kind of a little bit more creepy. Everything over on the other side, of course, will be more like a coral reef. Bright and beautiful and very playful. If you take a look at my map, you can see a little bit more of what I was talking about. So everything in the top left corner is going to be the deep, dark underwater. Everything in the top right corner and the bottom right corner is going to be the beautiful coral reef and underwater world of the mermaids. In the bottom left corner is going to be the castle area and the peasantry area with farms and a little bit of a beautiful community. While we're looking at the map, there are a couple of other things I want you to take notice of. If you can see, there's a little bit of terraforming I've done in between the areas. I also put a few little baby islands in the water in between the 2 because I'm trying to really differentiate that this is 2 different worlds. I'm standing really near the water right now, and you can see those little islands. They are mostly meant to just break that water up and look kind of interesting. They don't really have a purpose other than just to be cool, mostly on the map. Also on my map, you can see the villagers that I have chosen for Atlantica, and each of them was chosen very specifically and with a lot of thought. The first ones I point out here are going to be the underwater villagers. So here we have Marina, and then also Puddles and Flora. All 3 of them have really beautiful pink homes that have a lot of pastel feel to them, and I think that they will fit for an underwater theme, even though obviously they don't all completely live underwater. This has a lot to do with how their houses fit and the way that the villagers feel when they're walking around. Also underwater is Quinn. There weren't any of the bird or eagles that really felt a lot like Scuttle to me. And so I decided to keep Quinn because the house is really dark purple. Quinn has the bird feel, and we're going to pretend more like Quinn is maybe Scuttle's distant cousin. What I really liked is that this gave me a beautiful purple house that could kind of go over in the area of the deep, dark underwater ocean, and I wanted something with some nice, rich, deeper colors to it. I want to focus a lot on the purples over here, so this was a good fit, and at the same time, Quinn definitely fits within the realm of the world that I'm creating. The other villagers are meant to be the peasants, the village people. So here we have Colton, who is probably a member of the guard. We have Shep, who is the same type of dog that Prince Eric has, so that was an absolute must for the island. I also have Spork, Bee, and Bunny, and these three were chosen because they looked like really good sort of farming villagers that could be part of a beautiful small old-fashioned community. They're cute and fun and just appealed to me, and sometimes that's all that matters. What I'm going to do now is set up a little bit of an idea of what I'm looking at as decoration and design in each of these 4 areas. I want them to have their own feel, their own style, and why the town will coordinate. I definitely want the flowers to be different, some of the patterns to be different. They're just going to be unique to each other. I think that's it for this first step here. Now it's time for me to get to work. I'll be back once I figure out all the items that I'm going to be using for these 4 themes. Hi everybody, I'm back. It's been a couple of days for me, and as you can see, I have already started this brainstorming process. Here is everything that I have assembled so far to be inspiration for the castle area. My purpose in this area is to create Eric's castle, and I've decided on this really pretty light brown castle wall, and a couple of them have been customized with that blue symbol on it. The color combinations that I'm planning over here, other than the really basic brown and gray, is to focus on pops of blue and yellow. There is a lot of green in the build already, and it may not look like a yellow and blue theme. A lot of the flowers are pulling that in for me, but again, it's going to be an enclosed castle, and I am going to have a lot of grounds to do. So I really wanted to make sure that I had a lot of landscaping items that would make sense for a castle. I'm also going to be using a lot of the trees in here that are potted, the fountains. I may even use a couple different kinds of fountains and decorations that seem very regal. I've decided on the green street lamps both for here and the village, and I can't wait to see what all of this comes together looking like in the end. The second inspiration area is the village around the castle. As you can see, it has a lot of farm items in here, but it also has some really quaint, pretty little white elements. A lot of the times when we see villages that are near castles, the people are always a little bit poor and things don't look great, and it's kind of this sad type of environment. It was really important to me that this be a flourishing town. Prince Eric, I guess, and a future King Eric is very nice. He is good to his people. I wanted this area to be pleasant and nourishing, very much an idyllic sort of village by the castle, and in that fairy tale-esque way, it's supposed to be perfection. The color palette that I'm choosing over here, in addition to the browns, is going to be yellow, green, and white. Again, I'm pulling that white in because I really want to clean up and make this area look very kind. I'm excited to see the villagers interact with a lot of these items, and obviously there will be a lot more built in here, and I'll be planting crops that we have in the game as well. Things like pumpkins, tomatoes, potatoes, all those sort of things. I haven't chosen the paths and custom patterns that I'm going to be using for all these different areas yet. I usually do that earlier on in this process by now, but I want to sort of see how some of these areas lay out first. It can be useful sometimes to wait and hold off on doing work until you know for certain what it is you're going to need, and I don't know for certain what I'm going to need in these areas yet. Instead of 2 areas for the underwater design kind of palette things that I put together here, I actually ended up creating 3. This first one is really focused on the coral reef type style. I've ended up choosing a really interesting color combination. Did you see the bubbles that just came out of this gyroid? I have decided I need 100 of these gyroids because those little bubbles are going to be so cute underwater. Anyhow, I really want to make sure that there are a lot of high elements that bring in a lot of emphasis in the area. So I'm using a variety of different colors and a variety of different rock formations. One of the things that I have decided to use use as part of the rock formation style here is going to be the volcano. Another is the rockhead statue, and I'll just turn it around here, you can see, but from the back, I think it works really well. I'm also going to be using the termite mounds, and I like the way that the browns work here with the brown cave. In addition, I'll be using a lot of different colors of the moss stools, and I just think that that will help bring in a little bit of that coral pattern. So the colors I've chosen for this area are red, orange, yellow, and pink. And then of course there will be a lot of brown and green pretty much everywhere. But focusing on the red, orange, yellow, and pink colors, I think is going to be a really fun way to make this area vibrant and pull in a lot of that coral reef vibe that I'm hoping for in this part of the island. The second palette that I've put together for underwater is going to be by the Mermaid Castle, and that's Ariel's house currently, and it will be of course customized to look different on the outside, but I've started assembling different blocks here like the ice wall from the winter. I'm not quite certain how I'm going to make the big beautiful mermaid castle underwater, but I definitely want to incorporate it into the island, so I've started putting a few things out. The color palette over here is going to be extremely classic mermaid, so it has the pink, purple, and the blue to pull things together. This area will be fairly condensed and everything around it is going to be a little bit more of the coral reef vibe, but directly here in the Mermaid Kingdom we'll definitely have some heavy, hyper cutesy mermaid vibes. The last design palette area is the deep ocean. Over here is going to be where Ursula lives. It's also going to be where everything is creepy and darker and a little bit kind of spooky. I want this to be where a lot of the shipwrecks are, so there's going to be a lot of broken sort of piratey ship things down below. Look at Colton just hanging out over here in the deep ocean. Just ignore that. And then we have of course the seaweed, and I've pulled in just a couple flowers that have a little bit of a deep dark vibe. I thought I was going to be using more purple over here, but it actually seems like, given the items we have in the game, it's going to be predominantly black and blue with pops of purple. So we'll see how it all comes together. It's definitely a really unique variety of items. We have the big giant vines, we have some of the darker mushroom items, oh, and of course the spider crab. I've only managed to catch one spider crab so far, but I definitely want to put a few of them over here because they're kind of creepy. I think this is going to be a really fun area to put together and will also be an important part of telling the Little Mermaid story. Another decision I made over the last couple of days was to set this particular island during the month of May. Mostly that's because I really want these big, long, beautiful weeds. I think they most resemble seaweed when they are built all the way up to their highest level, and I also wanted to make sure I was avoiding cherry blossom season since it doesn't quite fit. The first thing I've decided to work on for this island, now that I have all of the palettes put together, is to organize the walls of the castle. To do that, I've come over here so I can pick up all the items. Over the last few days, I have been fishing to get money so that I could put together fish models and also so that I could buy all of these castle walls. I still have a lot more castle walls that I need to purchase because I think this is going to be a fairly complex castle, so I'm going to finish buying a few walls and then start putting it together. Once I get the whole castle outline in place, I'll pop back in and show you guys what I've decided on. I finished putting all the castle outline together, and it may not look like it's a ton of progress, but I have to tell you what, it took longer to do than it looks. Of course, the big part of it is going day to day and only ordering 5 items at a time, but you can kind of see how I've put the big main entrance together. I really wanted to layer a lot of the pieces together so that it would be thick and rich in the entrance areas. So I did a little bit of a double gate with the lights in between, and I love the way that came out, and it also means that I can walk through that pretty easily. There did end up being 4 different entrances or exits to the castle area, one on each side. I like this one that goes up to the museum, and I wanted to be able to make sure I could get in and out of this area if I needed to get to resident services. This space here where I'm running in circles is where I'm going to be putting Eric's home, and it will be the inside of the actual castle building. I did move this store out here so that it was actually closer to the other store on the other side of the castle, which I realized once I was putting the walls down, and all in all, I think it worked out. Now it's time for just a few more decorations. I decided that we needed to add at least a little bit of decorations around each of the 4 entrances, and I didn't want to put too much on the inside yet, just added a couple things because I still haven't picked what custom patterns I'm going to be using for the ground in here. I've got a couple different patterns in mind, but the one that you choose, the custom pattern that you choose to be the path for the main area that you're working in, really does define a lot of the look, and I don't think I have time to make one right now, so I've got to find one. That is going to be tomorrow, Katie's problem. For today here, you can see I just sped the video up for a minute so that I could do a little bit of a voiceover during a quick speed build of just some very basic decorations. I couldn't bring myself to leave these areas just completely empty and plain, and I think it's going to be a little while before I get to the rest of the decorating. You see, for the castle, I actually need to create Eric and get his home in and upgraded first before we do the rest of that design. That's all I have time for today's episode, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you're starting to see the vision of where I'm planning to go for this island. My next step, of course, is going to be to pick out some custom patterns, and I'll see if I can't get some of that placed down, and I'll get back with you before we do any more fun decorating for Underwater Paradise. Oh, look, Flora wanted to come over and say goodbye too. That's very sweet, you know. She's gonna miss you guys. I hope you found something useful here and continue creating in this game. Until next time, have the best Animal Crossing day.